At least one person has died and dozens are missing after the partial collapse of a 12-storey residential building in Miami. There are fears some Australians may have been caught up in the collapse. Daniel Rivero is a reporter with WLRN Public Radio in Miami, and he joins us now. Daniel Rivero, welcome. So you've been down at the site of this collapse today. What's it like to see it firsthand?
You know, unfortunately, it looks like some of the disasters that we've had in this country, the one that comes to mind is the Oklahoma City bombing we had in the mid-90s. There's a whole side of the building that looks like a bomb went off, and it's missing. So, you know, a very significant number of residential units are just no longer there. You know, I talked to property owners that used to have properties there, and those properties are no longer there. And as you mentioned, there's one confirmed dead. We don't know how many that toll could go up to. We do know there are 99 people listed as being potentially missing at this point.
And for people unfamiliar with the building, we're seeing shots now of what's left of it. What can you describe about what was there before, how big this building was?
It was a significant sized building. It was an L shape. You know, what happened now is basically one line on that L is no longer there. It's just one section of it. So, you know, it was a prominent building nestled right on from the beach onto the main road. There's a pool. It was a very popular building for a lot of international buyers. It's a very popular area for South Americans. It's a living paradise for a lot of people that live there. And especially on that part of the beach, it's known as being very quiet, very neighborhoody. It's not bustly. It's very, very welcoming and calm there.
And tell us about the people that you've spoken to there today.
Right. So I did speak with a number of people. Some of them were inside the building, and they felt the earth rumbling around them, and they came out. And their neighbor, one man I talked to, his family, the condo next door to where they were was just completely gone, and they fled out of the building. And I also talked to a number of people that are just looking for loved ones or looking for friends. And actually, one of the people I talked to was an Australian. It was Joseph Wax. He lives in Surfside in another building, and another group of his Australian friends actually lives in the building where this collapse happened.
My name is Joseph Wax. I live in Surfside, been living here for 12 and a half years, love this place, woke up absolutely with this shocking news, cannot believe this, 2021. If this was, could have been prevented, which it sounds like it could have been, we're just absolutely shocked. I'm seeing, looks like somebody came and bombed our building. This reminds me of what I saw on 9/11. Every single person wakes up in the morning at 6:30. We wake up, we say hello to each other, we see each other. Everyone who I see around here are people that I see when I jog in the morning. So, and now we're just here mourning together rather than running and jogging and smiling and being happy. We're all mourning here together. We're trying to find out, we have friends of ours from Australia. I'm actually originally from Australia, so we have friends of ours from Australia that live in that building, and they've been unable to be communicated. So we're hoping for the best. Only good news, yeah.
Okay, so Joseph Wax there speaking at the site of this building collapse in Miami that's just happened in the past 10 hours or so. A former Australian who says he knows people in the building who are Australian and he hasn't been able to contact them. The Australian Embassy has not confirmed anything about Australians, and so that question is still unresolved. We don't know what's happened, but there clearly are concerns about some Australians who may have been caught up in this. And we're speaking to reporter Daniel Rivero, who did that interview with Joseph Wax. And Daniel, you mentioned that you were able to speak to some people who got out of the building. Were they people who were living in the portion of the building that remained standing? Do you know anyone apart from that boy who was rescued who got out of the portion of the building that collapsed?
You know, unfortunately, up to this point, that boy that was pulled out, there's video of that rescue very shortly after the building collapsed. Apart from that, boy being pulled from the rubble. We haven't seen other similar incidents. There was about 35 people. The fire rescue team said that they helped out of the building, but a lot of them were stuck on balconies. They couldn't access the staircases, so they were helped out. But as far as people pulled out of the rubble, we only have one right now. And there are crews working in teams and in shifts at that location, digging through the rubble. It's just a very dangerous situation, especially because part of it is in an underground parking garage. So as the crews work, there's fears that they don't want the building to collapse on the emergency workers either. So it's a very slow and meticulous process, but it is ongoing. The fire rescue team estimates it could take up to a week to sift through all the rubble and hopefully find more survivors.
And as far as you've heard so far, have they been able to hear people speaking from underneath the rubble at all? I understand they've got search crews there with dogs and things like that.
Right, there is some technology that's able to detect sounds and whatnot. We do know that there are sounds under the rubble. We don't know if it's voices or if it's clicking or ticks or something like that, but they have identified sounds under the rubble that they do think is human, which is significant. And it brings a glimmer of hope because, like I said, there's about 99 people that are listed as missing. And even that is probably not completely accurate because there's so much international travel in this building in particular. We know people that are Argentinian who are missing, Uruguayan who are missing, Paraguayan who are missing. It's a very South American area of Miami where this is, and there's a lot of frequent travel between South America and that part of Miami. And a lot of parts of the world are just holding their breath right now, hoping for the best.
And is it virtually peak season there now?
Not at all, actually. It's our summertime. The summer is a little too hot here for what most people consider comfortable. The winter months tend to be our peak season. But COVID has changed the season a tiny bit, I would say. So, there's always people visiting Miami, but it's not the peak season, which could end up being a small good thing here. It could be much worse if the building was completely packed.
And do you understand that it is a mix of kind of like holiday rentals and people who live there permanently?
Correct. Yes, there are permanent residents. Some of them that I'm aware of have lived there up to 20 years or even more. And, one of the families I talked to that just narrowly survived. I mean, it was about 15 feet, probably about, 5 meters between where they were sitting and where the building collapsed. So the family could have died. They actually just got in a couple days ago just for a quick vacation. They know someone who owns the apartment and they kind of lent it to them. So a lot of people use it in that kind of way. It's it's a mix, I would say.
Yeah. And Daniel, the people you spoke to who were able to get out of that portion of the building that was left standing, did they say they heard any warning signs like cracking in the building or anything like that? But I understand that the issue with that also is that it was basically 1:30 in the morning that this happened, and the vast majority of people would have been asleep anyway.
That is true. A lot of people I talked to, both in that building and in the neighboring buildings, were woken up by a big boom. I did talk to a teenager, Justin Willis, who was just visiting with his family. He was up watching Netflix, and he described actually 3 sounds. Some people say there was 2 sounds. He says there was 3. But basically, what that means is that there was a big boom or a rumble, and then shortly after, there was another one, and then there was a big one at the end. But the thing is, it's rainy season. People didn't know if that was thunder, if there was a storm coming, if there was a plane coming over. There was a lot. People just didn't know what to think. Some of them, until they opened their doors and they saw half the building gone. I mean, people just didn't know what to think about it.
Yeah. So basically, no warning for people inside at all.
No, no warning at all.
And Daniel, from the people you spoke to there this morning, presumably there are a couple of people who'd been living in the building for quite some time. Have they told you about the building's history and if there were any concerns that had been raised previously about the building structure?
Right. The building is fairly old. It was actually starting to undergo a 40-year inspection, which is required here in Miami-Dade County for those older buildings, just to check their structural integrity, to make sure they are sound. So the building just next door to it, which was part of the same development, there's a north and a south and an east building. The one next to it just had that inspection done. And this one was just starting it. There was roof work being done. There was heavy machinery on the roof. There was cranes there. So there was active construction going on at the time. And the building it was old. So, I mean, there are reports, and people say that it did have some issues with leaks, with, all the issues that can visit a building that's, 40 years old. It was built in 1981, so it is 40 years old.
And in the coverage this morning, I've seen some mention of an adjacent site where there was foundation work going on as well. Did you hear about that?
Yes, and it is true. I mean, we don't know a whole lot about the potential things that might have caused this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation. It's right on the water. There's speculation. Is this a reality of sea level rise? Because maybe that can shift the ground a little bit, which could happen and has happened. We don't know if that's the case here. If there was a sinkhole, if it was this roofing work getting done, there's a lot of theories out there and a lot of potential explanations. It might be some kind of mix of all the above, or it might be one individual one, but it's going to take, we've talked to engineers and architects and people that study this. It's going to take a long time to get some real answers about what happened here.
And Daniel, in your time in that Miami area, have you seen much discussion about the structural integrity of buildings, considering that I'm guessing that, there's a lot of sandy territory around there? Right.
Well, it is actually becoming more of an issue that people have been talking about, the impacts of sea level rise in different ways. In this particular area, in the immediate aftermath, the local government moved people in the immediately surrounding buildings out. So the American Red Cross is trying to work with them to find some temporary shelters. Our governor, Ron DeSantis, has declared a state of emergency. So the federal government's going to be coming down here to help people find housing around there as the experts do their studies and try to find, are the buildings in the immediately surrounding area, are they structurally sound? Are they safe enough to actually have people living in? Because now that this happened, it opens a whole can of worms. Yeah. There's a lot of questions for the people nearby.
Okay, Daniel, just before we leave you, I might just get you to go back over what you know about that possible Australian connection, because that's the first time we're hearing of that in this country at the moment. So there'll be people here who are keen to hear the detail on that. So just go back through that for us.
Right. So that interview was on the beach. Like I mentioned, this building is smack in between. It borders the beach on one side. There's a pool, and then you can walk right up to the beach. And on the other side, there's a highway, small highway, but a highway. And on the beach side, it's the side that it collapsed on. So a lot of people who lived in the building, and a lot of neighbors who just walk around there, go for swims around there. People have been gathered around the perimeter that the police set up to look at the building, to chat with each other, share information and whatnot. And so Joseph Wax, who I mentioned lives in Surfside as well, is from Australia. He was one of the people there, and he was trying to get in touch with his friends, and he couldn't get in touch with his friends. Yeah. And he's not the only one. Like I mentioned, there was people from Argentina that were trying to get in touch with their friends. We know there was some prominent doctors. The first lady of Paraguay, she had family that was in the building that are unaccounted for. So like I mentioned, this is a very international area of Miami. People are constantly traveling. A lot of people own properties there from all over the world. And there's a lot of fear in a lot of parts of the world, because as of now, there's one death. We can say with certainty, we should expect that is going to go up. How high it might go up, we don't know, but people are fearing for the worst.
Indeed. Okay, Daniel Rivero from WLRN Public Radio, thanks very much for talking to us today from Miami.
Thank you very much.